The AFCA's 35 Under 35 Coaches Leadership Institute is the premier education and networking opportunity for the country's top young coaches.
That 35 Under 35 experience is really, really cool for me to learn, grow, but then honestly being a little bit of a fraternity of dudes that have gone through.
Full-time assistant or head coaches who will be 35 years old or younger on January 1st are encouraged to apply between July 1st and 31st of this year.
Encourage guys to apply for that. Don't worry about what your resume says right now. If you really believe in yourself and think you're a quality coach, you're going to be around other quality coaches, and it develops relationships.
If you want to see yourself grow as a person and as a coach in this profession, in this business, you have to seek it out.
For information on how to apply for the AFCA 35 Under 35 Coaches Leadership Institute, please visit afca.com/35 under 35.
I applied, I'm not embarrassed to say this, I applied for 5 years straight, okay? It is a program that's hard to get into, but it's absolutely worth it. Don't give up on yourself, keep applying, keep doing whatever you have to do to network, to try to get your name in there, because the program, you can't even put a price on it.
Welcome to this week's episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm. This week, we sit down with Chris Klieman, the head coach at Kansas State. In this conversation, Coach Klieman discusses how he focuses on preparing his players for life after football, how he makes himself present as a head coach, and why he chose to join the AFCA's Board of Trustees. But first, a word from CoachComm.
Deuce left, check with me. If they're in quarters match, we're going to Pittsburgh or Ohio.
They're in zero.
Let's go Hippo, Seattle, wide choice. If we call the protection right, it's 6.
When a play call is the difference between winning and losing, your headset choice could be your most important decision. When the call counts, CoachComm is the only choice for clear, dependable communication. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
We got it, guys. Good job.
Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Klieman.
Coach Klieman, how we doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I look forward to spending a little time with a head ball coach. I know finding 30 minutes to come and talk to me is not it's sometimes hard to find, so I do appreciate it. So let's go ahead and dive on in here. What was that moment in your life? When did you know you wanted to be in this great profession of being a collegiate football coach?
When I graduated from college, I graduated from the University of Northern Iowa. I played for 3 head coaches at Northern Iowa. Daryl Mudra, who recently passed. I played for Earl Bruce and then finished with Terry Allen. When I finished playing, I knew I wasn't a next level guy. And so I wanted to find a way to get in the profession. And our athletic director at the time was Bob Bowlesby, who ended up being the commissioner of the Big 12. And so Bob found a spot for me to be a grad assistant. Terry hired me, and I love the interaction. I love the X's and O's, but more importantly, I love the interaction with the coaches. I felt like I was a coach on the field as a defensive back, and jumped right in as a graduate assistant and had a lot of really good experiences as a young coach.
Yeah, well, it's always interesting whenever we do this podcast, we have a guy that played at a place and literally that next semester all of a sudden is a coach on the staff. And I always like to ask the question, how did you at that point in time, put that line of delineation from, hey, these were my guys I was just hanging out and telling jokes in the locker room with, to now I'm trying to be a ball coach. I'm trying to be serious in this profession. Yeah. How did you make that transition?
Well, it was a long time ago. It was 1991, so times had changed a little bit, but I was still their friend. I was still their former teammate, and I was never going to try to jump quickly to say I'm the boss now. I just didn't think that was going to fit for me with my personality. But I thought that I could help them, and in the preparation part of it, help them in things that they were seeing on the field. And so I just kind of dove right in and continued with my relationship with the guys, but was able to maybe speak in more of a coach's term rather than next to him on the field. And I guess I never had the issue or had any concern about, because I wasn't a going into it, all of a sudden becoming a hard disciplinarian. I was just talking ball with these guys, and they were my friends, my former teammates, and it fit. And that was kind of our style. That was Coach Allen's style anyway. And so it really fit with what our players were.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of looking at the timeline there, Coach. You spent 2 years as a GA, but you were quickly promoted to a full-time gig there in '93, to where you're promoted to the defensive backs coach. What do you probably attribute that 24, 25-year-old full-time defensive back coach? What do you attribute that quick success to?
Well, I was still really an assistant defensive back coach for Dick Mosley. Dick Mosley's one of my mentors, and Dick passed away a few years back. And Dick was the secondary coach in 93, and I was kind of his helper. But I just opportunities and make the most of your opportunities. And then in 94 was my first real, hey, you own the room. At Western Illinois, and I got to work for Randy Ball and Bill Wilt, who are two icons in our profession that everybody would know in the FCS world. And so I got to work with those guys, and I got to run my own room in 1994 at Western Illinois. So that really started my journey as a full-time coach, where I was in charge of the room. And it was a great thing because it wasn't far from home. It was only 3+ hours from where I grew up. I knew the league really well. It was the old Gateway Conference, and still talk to a couple of those players today that I coached in 94, 95, 96. But really grateful for Randy Ball and for Bill Wilt for taking a chance on me.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this question. After, what I believe a 6-time national championship winner, just having such a decorated career, when you look back on that first year you had that room, what were some of the things you look back and say, golly, I was just so wet behind the ears? What was some of those learning curves in that first year for you?
Everything was a learning curve. But I still believed in the relationship part of it. I probably challenged the guys, but they knew I cared. And I think that still is today. I don't care if it's back in the mid 90s to where we are in 2024. You can challenge guys if they know you care. And, that's something that I've always tried to do is, build the relationship, build the trust, build the bond with them. So they know that you have their back, and then you can challenge them to get the most out of them, because, everybody wants to have success. Everybody wants to play. But I want to make sure that everybody, when they are done playing, is going to be successful in life. And sometimes, we talk about love. Sometimes love is tough love. And if kids don't do things right, off the field, it's going to be tough love. And I think that is the best coaches right now, in the country, are the guys that can challenge guys, but, love them as well. And we don't probably use that word enough because it's such a manly sport, masculine stuff. But man, I love the players that I coach, and I know that I'm trying to make a difference in their life, not for the 4 years they're there, but for the 50, 60, 70 years beyond the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you kind of hit the nail right on the head, regardless of at the time, and the relationship still is probably the easiest and most important thing to make sure that you focus on. The other stuff will kind of come together, it seems like, right?
You got it. It has to be relationship driven, and the big difference now compared to back in 1994 or 5 is the amount of people that are impacting these guys' lives. I mean, we had the linebacker coach was a strength coach. There wasn't a nutritionist. There was one athletic trainer. There was one equipment manager. There wasn't a recruiting staff. There wasn't any of those things. Yeah. Now, and I was the academic advisor for these guys too. Right. Now, there's so many people that they're encountering and that are impacting their lives. And I always tell those guys, take advantage of all the resources that everybody has now, because you're going to count on and need one of those people later on in life for a job opportunity, for a resume, for a reference letter, for a personal statement, whatever it may be, and cherish those opportunities you have to grow with the relationships you have with all the support staff.
Absolutely. And let me kind of tie this back into your current job as a head ball coach, because you said something that kind of resonated with me. I remember being a former player at Baylor. My relationship with my running back coach was all that. It was, hey, I need advice about something that has nothing to do with the game, to everything. He was kind of my everything. And then I think about, my last few years coaching, at Louisiana Monroe with Coach Todd Berry. And, we were scheduling guys to come in. We were scheduling people from across campus to come in and, special speakers and all this stuff to kind of hit on this as a head ball coach. What are some of your thought processes as you're bringing those kind of the support staff and, people outside of the program in to talk about things that, back in the 90s that you were probably doing yourself?
Yeah, I think the messaging is the key. I surround our staff and I surround our program with people that want to share messages that we all believe in. We have 4 simple core values at K-State: discipline, commitment, toughness, and be selfless. And those 4 core values are going to carry us throughout our day and throughout life, on the field, off the field. And so when any of our support staff talks to the guys, or if we bring somebody in, I want to tie one of those core values in of how discipline has helped somebody. We all maybe don't like discipline. We all need discipline. And then commitment, just being committed of what you're doing when no one's watching. That's a commitment. When everybody's watching, man, that's a requirement. That's not a commitment. And then toughness, and then the last thing, which is to be selfless, and that's what we're all fighting right now with 18 to 22-year-olds is playing for the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back of the jersey, while also having that opportunity to be successful individually. We're all going to be successful if we're a team and play well as a team. Then the individual success is going to happen. But those 4 core values that our entire staff, and I'm not a big me guy, I'm a we guy and an us guy and an our guy. All of our staff really hits on those 4 core values on a daily basis.
Amen, Coach. Well, you spend that time in Western Illinois. You have 3 seasons there as the full-time defensive backs coach, and you take an opportunity to go back as a GA, and you do that with the University of Kansas. Obviously, all those different levels, kind of have a different feel for what a graduate assistant is. I know maybe it was a little bit more closer at that point in time, but what were some of the differences from that FBS graduate assistant opportunity versus that the one at the FCS program?
Yeah. I get asked that a lot because of my time now at K-State and prior to that at Northern Iowa and North Dakota State. I'm a big believer in football is football. Mm-hmm. And no matter what the level it is, I've never thought of that as it's a lower level, it's a whatever. It's the Super Bowl for those kids at Loras College where I was at in Division III every Saturday, just like it's the Super Bowl for the kids at Western Illinois to North Dakota State to now at Kansas State. And I really believe that if you're talented enough, they're going to find you. I just never got hung up on levels of play. And I really believe that you're at where you're at. And I always tell every coach that is looking for jobs, and that's be where your feet are. And be where your feet are. And do the best job you can at wherever you're at. And if you do that, you're going to get noticed and you're going to get opportunity.
Amen. And now in that role as a graduate assistant, doing it a few years back, was there anything that you felt a little bit better prepared for in terms of helping coaches and assistant coaches being prepared for games on Saturdays, just having that experience as a full-time coach and GA and before? Yeah,
without a doubt. I just think every year, you're growing. Every year you're getting more and more knowledgeable. Every year you're probably understanding more about game planning, more about making adjustments. But I'm doing that right now at 56 years old, trying to figure out how much more I can learn. And that's why, going to the AFCA conventions is still an important piece, because you're getting a chance to learn from everybody. And I learn an awful lot from Division III coaches because I know what they go through. Mm-hmm. I learn awful lot from Division II FCS coaches because they're doing a lot. They're doing usually more with less.
Absolutely.
And so, the knowledge that you get every day in this profession, whether it's on the field, off the field, you never know it all, and you're always trying to improve and get better. And that's what I try to do each year that I coach, whether I was a full-time or a GA.
Yeah. Well, not trying to skip over any parts here, but I will kind of fast forward to make sure I can respect your time here just a little bit. You spent 2 years at Kansas as a graduate assistant, and you have this opportunity to go back to a full-time role at Missouri State. But you mentioned Loras College. I kind of want to hit on that because you take your first job as a coordinator there in 2002. You're a defense coordinator there at Loras College, and you take the program defensively from one of the worst in the league from the statistical categories to one of the best in the league. Once again, kind of like I tied it into that first full-time job. What were some of the learning curves of being a coordinator now, kind of been responsible for not just the players, but also some of the coaches in all these different areas?
Yeah, I bounced around an awful lot, and then landed at Loras College after taking a couple years away from the game. And I probably learned as much at Loras College as I'd done it as I had at any spot I was at. And I'm forever grateful for the current president there, Jim Collins, because Jim Collins is the one that gave me the opportunity at Loras College. Bob Beery, who's one of my favorite coaches. Bob Beery was a head coach at Loras College for 25 years plus. And I went to Division III, and I loved every minute of it. I loved those kids. And that was the purest sense of what football is.
Yeah.
I was a defensive coordinator, had a couple of GAs with me on that side of the ball, because you don't have a lot of resources with coaches.
Yeah. And
the 3 or 4 of us just grinded and had a great time with those guys and got them to play hard and got them to believe in themselves. And that's coaching, is to get them to play hard and to get them to believe in themselves and believe that every day they're getting better. And so, yeah, I was pretty green as first time defensive coordinator, but I learned on the fly and believed in the kids, loved the kids, and I enjoyed my 5 years at Loras College and still talk to President Collins even today. I really enjoyed that pureness of the game. And Jeff McMartin, who's head coach at Central College, he was coaching at Central when I was the head coach at Loras, and so still love to have my conversations with Jeff McMartin, one of the best that's ever done it, no matter what level as a head coach. And so I just so appreciate my time there and what it allowed me to do as the equipment manager, as somebody that was in charge of game day operations for men's and women's basketball and opening things up. And you did it all. And it prepared me to be a head coach.
Yeah, you kind of segue right into that. You oftentimes have the opportunity to wear those multiple hats at a place like Loras. And I was going to ask, does that truly help you out as a head coach now, where you have a lot more resources, but maybe gives you a different vantage point of what those guys have to deal with?
Yeah, whether it's equipment, whether it's game day operations, whether it was recruiting, it was academics, it was financial aid, it was everything that you do. And maybe, I don't know if it gave me the knowledge on everything, but it gave me an appreciation when I go visit with somebody in academics or financial aid or compliance to say, boy, I was doing all this, and I know the stress that these people are under and the amount of work to be done. And I think those people don't get valued enough sometimes. And so I value the heck out of them here at K-State because I've been in their shoes. And I know that sometimes everybody wants something from the academic people yesterday and they needed it. And so it takes a little while. And so the compassion for those people, but they worked their tail off, and it prepared me for my time as a head coach at Loras, my time as a head coach at North Dakota State, and obviously my time here.
Well, real quick, there's probably a lot of different places I could kind of put a line in your career here, but this is prior to your first head ball job, just been to DC there at Loras College. And your stops in Northern Iowa, Western Illinois, Kansas, and Missouri State, and obviously where you currently were in our conversation at Loras College. What was kind of that biggest maybe piece of growth that you saw? I know you grew probably everywhere, but what was that one place you look back and say, man, that was such a special time for me because I really grew at that position?
Well, it was at Loras for sure. And other than Coach Beery, who was the head coach, then I became the second oldest guy on the staff, and I wasn't very old.
Yeah.
And so I had to be a great mentor and leader for all the younger coaches. And I wasn't that old. I was in my mid-30s, but everybody that was working for me was in their mid-20s.
Yeah.
But I knew where I was at in my mid-20s. And some guys think they know a lot, and they need to be tempered down a little bit, and some guys are just wanting to be a sponge and learn as much as they can. And so, but we all worked our tail off to put ourselves in position to be successful, whether it was in recruiting or whether it was in community service or whether it was at a game. And so I really learned to be a leader there because I was the oldest guy on defense, and other than Coach Beery, I was the second oldest on the staff.
That's awesome. Well, you learn a lot there, and you have the opportunity to get promoted to a full-time head coach. And what did you learn in that first year that you kind of reflect back on, maybe here and there as a head ball coach now?
Yeah, it was such a tough time in the fact of I was also the defensive coordinator, and so trying to get game plans ready and stuff, and still be a leader for the offensive guys. Something I probably didn't do as good a job of. And I probably recognized that when I left there to say, well, they saw you on the defensive side all the time. And that's the thing. I have great admiration for the guys that call it as head coaches at any level. I don't care what level it is. If you're calling it on that side of the ball, there's some neglect on the other side of the ball. There just naturally is. You can say there's not, but there is. And so I learned a lot at that time about, if I get this opportunity to do it again, I'm not calling it, and I'm going to hire somebody to do it so that I can be the CEO of everybody and build relationships with everybody. And that was, if you fast forward to where I was at North Dakota State, when I became head coach, I'd been the defensive coordinator the past 2 years and been on the defensive staff the last 3 years. When I got the head job at North Dakota State, the first thing I did was hire Matt Ince to be the defensive coordinator. And say, Matt, you got it. I'll help you as you learn our system, but you got it. And I'm not going to be in that room because I'm going to be in every offensive line room, every running back room, every quarterback room, wide receiver, tight end room, so that I can get to know those guys and know those coaches so that nobody says, well, this guy's just a defensive-minded head coach that isn't going to pay attention to it.
Right. And do you find yourself, have you truly been able to do that at both stops? Have you truly been able to kind of be a very balanced head coach, or are you still kind of peeking there a little bit more in another?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've made a conscious effort of that is to make sure that the offensive guys see me an awful lot, whether that's, plus if you're not leading the room from a game plan standpoint, you can bounce around a lot more to the recovery areas, to the weight room, to the training room, to different film rooms where kids are watching video, and just keep building relationships.
Well, Coach, I'm going to kind of bounce back. I'd love to spend a little more time on it, but I'm going to make sure I kind of roll through all these stops here. So after that stint as a head coach, you end up back in Northern Iowa, where you immediately come in as a full-time defensive backs coach, or later a co-defensive coordinator. More just about coming back to a spot. Your alma mater too. In that, what was the difference that second time around, coming back as a full-time coach?
Well, it was 13 years in the making. And so that 13 years allowed me to be a much more seasoned coach, a much more mature guy, a much more, I had a better understanding of what we were going to do on defense. I had terrific staff around me, guys that, our staff at Northern Iowa, there's a lot of guys that are either head coaches, former head coaches in the NFL. We had really good staff there, and so we had really good players, and had a great experience there. It was probably at the peak of what Northern Iowa has been, because had the place sold out every game, and it was a lot of fun with really good teams, and just grew an awful lot as a coach there. But I knew that I wasn't done growing, and that was the big thing is. For me, I enjoyed my 5 years there, but at the end of that time of 5 years, I knew that I needed to grow more as a coach. And that was probably difficult for me to leave, because my folks lived in Cedar Falls, Waterloo, Iowa. My brother lived in Cedar Falls, Iowa. But for me to grow as a coach, I had to take another step and take another chance. And I was fortunate to get a call from Craig Bull and go to North Dakota State.
Yeah, and this is awesome. Just with him, been our new executive director here. Been phenomenal these 4 months, kind of getting to know him and hearing some of these stories and that I'm talking to you about there at North Dakota State. But in 2011, you go over there as a defensive backs coach and have the tremendous opportunity to win a national championship and kind of a run of something just truly unheard of in terms of me just sitting here asking questions. About 300 episodes in, I just have never seen a national championship as a position coach, coordinator, and head ball coach. Just real quick, the culture. That's such a buzz term for good programs, bad programs, people that believe in it and all that kind of stuff. I've had Tyler Roll on here, David Braun, yourself. I mean, I can go down the list. Matt Entz. I've had all you guys on here, and I mean, it just seems like a very special place. Just talk about that culture there.
Yeah, it's player run, it's player led, and it didn't happen. And Craig will tell you this: it didn't happen just because Craig was there. He did it at the Division I era.
Yeah,
but they'd won multiple national championships in the Division II era.
That's right.
And so there was a blueprint of tradition there, and Craig came in and built that in the Division I era, but we still put it on the kids. And I thought that was the unique thing. It was a player-driven, player-led team, and no transfers at the time. It wasn't in that world of it. And we got on a run that I pinched myself. I mean, you're right. We win it in 11, and I'm the assistant coach. We win it in 12 and 13, and I'm the DC. Craig goes to Wyoming. Gene Taylor hires me to be the head coach in 14, and I said, "What's your expectation?" And he said, "To win national championships." I'm like, "Okay, let's buckle up."
Yeah,
and bring in a new staff. We lost 26 guys. We brought in a bunch of new staff members, and I said, "Guys, we got to win this thing again this year." Luckily, we had Carson Wentz as a quarterback, and had a lot of good players around him that played in the NFL, and Kyle Emanuel and Joe Haig and stuff. But we win the thing in 2014 and 2015. So there's 5 in a row that is kind of unheard of in college football. And we won 5 in a row there. And then we lost in 2016, and you'd have thought the sky was falling. We lost in the semifinals to James Madison. And that year we beat Iowa. And you'd think it was an awful season because we lost a couple of games and didn't make it to the national championship. But then to be able to come back and win it again in 17 and 18, holy cow! And finish it on the right note when I left there with an undefeated team, and then to turn it over to Coach Entz and him to keep it rolling was pretty special.
Yeah, and I know we're out of time here, Coach, and because I do want to save just one opportunity to ask you about the been on the board of trustees, but. I think about my stint as a coach, even now here working at the AFCA, I still peek at Millsaps College, all these places that I stopped at. Do you check out how North Dakota State's doing, just really with that lineage of guys that I coached him and blah, blah, blah. Do you kind of keep up with it a little bit?
Yeah, you have to, because once a bison, always a bison. Yeah. And Tyler will tell you the same thing. Matt Entz will tell you the same thing. And for me, it becomes full circle.
Yeah.
Because I left there, turned it over to Coach Entz. He won a couple national championships. Coach Polisek, who's the new head coach, was my OC in 14, 15, and 16. And then Coach Polisek hired my son to be the safeties coach.
And that was
yeah, it is still around us every day.
Well, you know what? I had the question that and I knew your son was there, so I don't know why I asked. Did you check? Because clearly you were checking it out. But you got Kobe who played DB at Kansas Wesleyan this last year. Is he looking to maybe get into the profession as well? Do you know?
Potentially. He's got 2 years left at Kansas Wesleyan. He'll be a junior this year as a starting safety. And that's a great example of football is football.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves it there. It's an hour down the road. So my wife goes to every game. If she makes it back to the K-State games, great. But, but she's a parent first. And I'm excited because we have 2 open weeks and a Friday this week or this season. So I get to see him 3 times play live. No, it's a lot of fun. And no, he's still playing. He's got 2 years left.
Yeah, I'm happy you got those opportunities to go and see him. I know how difficult that can be if your schedule was otherwise. All right, last question here for you, Coach. Obviously, you're doing a tremendous job there at Kansas State, and I know you want to keep that thing rolling. So, we can maybe visit in a few years and talk about that time. But you just joined the board of trustees at the AFCA. Why was that something that was important to you?
Couple reasons. One, coachable. That's the easy thing for me. I owe so much of my career to Craig Bull and giving me that opportunity to be successful and have a chance to be a head coach. And I owe that to Craig.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is, sorry, my thing keeps popping off here.
Yeah, no worries.
The other thing was, now is the time we need to make some change. We need to continue to do some things as we're in an ever-changing way of college athletics. And there's great people on that board. And Todd had assembled a lot of guys, and then Craig added some guys. And we need to make some great adjustments and change. And some of it's simple as the recruiting calendar and how we're trying to make quality of life better for coaches. But it's a great opportunity for me to give back to this great game that has given me so much.
Coach, well, once again, man, I could do this all day with you. Fantastic career so far. I know it's going to keep on moving, and we appreciate you for what you're willing to do and step up and fight for this profession right now in a challenging time. So thanks so much for 30 minutes. I'm really grateful for that, and I look forward to catching you next time and shaking your hand at the next convention.
Appreciate it. It was a fast 30 minutes, but I'm glad I got to come on here with you.
Yeah, we got through about 30 years, so it's all good. All right, Coach. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
CoachComm has been delivering tough headsets for tough teams for more than 31 years. It's why 97% of FBS teams and thousands of high schools across the country rely on CoachComm. Get the best for your team. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm, on wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.